Welcome to the Black Box of Media, brought to you by Ultimate Edge Communications. I'm your host, Aleisha McCall. This is the podcast that lifts the lid on hidden strategies behind high-performance media advertising. Now, on today's podcast, we are joined again by the wonderful Liana Ling. Liana joined our very first Black Box of Media podcast talking about AI and automation. And we wanted to bring her back today to really delve into the full funnel marketing and lead generation process and why it's important, what needs to be done, because so many marketers that I speak to are really still struggling with the stage of the funnel, where the conversation needs to happen, how important is the awareness and consideration play versus intention and conversion, and how can we really scale up our media advertising, scale up our brand execution to be able to create this beautiful omnichannel experience that people can move through the funnel in the way they choose, but also be able to track and measure it at the same time. So lots to cover today. Liana, I want to welcome you back. Thank you so much for joining us again. It's an absolute pleasure to have you on the podcast.
It's a pleasure to be here.
Wonderful. So we are going to jump straight into one of my favorite subjects, to be honest, is this full funnel media. I think it's got so many different elements to it. And I think in my experience, when you nail it and when you really are crystal clear on the stage of funnel that you're targeting, the outcome that you're trying to achieve, and then the creative journey that you need to take your consumer on, the magic starts to happen and your results go from sort of your minimal ROI to then really your double figure ROI. And I just think I'm super excited to get into this with you today, Liana. You can probably tell. So let's kick off and get into these questions, because we're very fortunate to have you here with us. So why do you think that many marketers still struggle with full funnel marketing? And what do you think the common pitfalls are in your experience?
Yeah. I think that marketers too long have been operating with blinders on, and everybody has to start taking them off. And I know it stems from a fear of failure, quite frankly, because let's just choose the media buyer, for example, right? The Facebook ads buyer. If you think that your numbers are doing really, really well on your lead gen, but actually you're driving poor quality leads, which are not buying down the journey, but you don't want to know that because you want to think you're doing a great job and you don't want to get fired, right? So I think that there has to be a change in the culture, quite frankly, about this, so that we can all take our blinders off and actually talk about the real numbers. And secondly, it's in tracking. The tracking is just not in place for many, many, many businesses, large, medium, and small. And there's other great third-party solutions. There are a number of them out there. They only work if your data is clean. And I've been saying this now to my teams for a while. I said, look, at the end of the day, though, the data is never 100% accurate. I don't think that there's something that gives you 100% perfect accuracy. But I said, just know, we all just need to be on the same page.
Yeah.
Just pretend we're all in the matrix and just make sure we're all in the same matrix so we can all make decisions based off of that. Then once we know what are the numbers that we're all going to agree that we're going to make decisions off of, then each person can better understand what their KPIs are. Because it could be, let's just take lead gen, for example, right? Quite often, you can actually you want higher cost leads because those are indicative of higher quality people. But you wouldn't know that if you're not actually looking at the big picture and knowing what the numbers are. But it's hard. Not a lot of people are still very good at measuring, figuring out what the numbers are that everyone needs. And that, now you can do it in AI probably, but
True, but that's a brilliant point because, we talk a lot about beginning with the end in mind. So Stephen Covey, 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, right? So simple, but so important, because if you're talking, and I'll go into businesses all the time and I talk to the marketing manager and I say, hey, what's the outcome of this campaign? She said, Aleisha, it's all about awareness. We just want to drive eyeballs, right? Then I go over to the CMO and the CMO is like, no, we're going to drive traffic, because if we don't drive traffic, we're not going to be able to get our sales conversions. And,
yes.
The boss said to me that we're going to get $1 million in sales this month. So I know that I've got to fill the pipeline. But that lack of clarity between the teams on what actually needs to be achieved is where a lot of the inefficiency comes from. Because if everyone just got in the room and got clear, this is the outcome, we need to get to $1 million in sales by December 31st. This is what we need to do. Let's go at it. Now everybody is focused on that on that number
Right.
one outcome, right? So no,
Yes.
I
Yes.
think that's brilliant. So what do you think the best way to structure and strategically manage full funnel marketing for long-term success is? And I know that's a big question, but what I mean by that is, really breaking out where you need to have those conversations and not ignoring the fact that you can't give someone a 20% off discount if you've never had a conversation with them. You've never seen
Right.
them. And also talking to the fact that we've got these amazing platforms right now, Facebook, Instagram, and so on, that are literally enabling us to set up our outcomes. Okay, this is an awareness campaign. This is a consideration campaign. This is an intention campaign. So, how do you think, Liana? What do you think the best way? And I know that's a big piece that we could talk about for a long time, but how do you think it's best to strategically manage that full funnel marketing aspect for long term success?
Yeah. I think you have to look at with an omni-channel perspective.
Mhm.
Yes, within each platform, it is possible to do retargeting and do all the sort of micro campaigns, but you still need to look at the bigger picture. And if you know nothing, when it's a brand new campaign, it's all guessing, right? We're all just guessing
Mhm.
and then we're just measuring and then trying to adapt, right? Until we find a winner. But if we're guessing, then I would go based on, in general, what are people's behaviors and mindsets in certain platforms and go from that. And think about, again, just if you think about it from an omni perspective, even if you think about it just, for example, Google and Facebook, let's just use that for example. Google, we can target people who are actually searching for something, high purchase intent, right? We can also put stuff out there with display ads and YouTube ads for like more awareness. And then we know, hey, well, we know a lot of times maybe our audience then tends to be scrolling on Facebook while they're looking at pictures of cats and funny memes,
Mhm.
right? So they need a reminder there. That'd be a good place maybe to retarget them, right? So I picked that just in general because sometimes that's how it works. Sometimes it works the opposite way. Facebook generates all of the interest because people are like scrolling, and then you actually encourage people to go search for stuff on Google, and you capture the sales when they're actually doing the search intent. So it can work
Yep.
both ways. But if you think that way and you know what KPIs you can hit on each platform because you know all your numbers,
Mhm.
then you can scale up, right?
Yeah.
Because you're just replicating that across all the different platforms now and just plugging in and okay, now where is email going to go, right? Where is TikTok going to go? Where is Snapchat going to go? That type of thing.
Yeah, fantastic. Do you have any examples of clients or campaigns that you've worked on where that you feel like that has been nailed, where you've got that awareness consideration piece? Can you share a couple of examples with us just to give
Sure.
listeners the idea of how to piece these puzzle pieces together in order to be able to create a true full funnel marketing campaign?
Yeah. So we did that on one where, and I can't divulge the
Of course,
name, but we did
of course.
actually do a case study on this, again, with protecting their privacy. But it was in the health area, and we were selling a certain health um, machine that needed a lot of education. So again, this is understanding your product, understanding your audience, all of that stuff, right?
Yeah.
What happened was there were several different advertorials that were created. We had advertorials, we had influencer ads, and then we just had the regular, retargeting, like left this in your cart or here's the special, that type of thing, right? And where it really worked out well for us was over Black Friday because the case study is based on making like $6 million in sales over Black Friday.
Mhm.
The reason that happened was because we discovered that adding all these people to be exposed with the advertorial and the education pieces and then retargeting them worked the best. So all we did was going up to Black Friday was we just cranked up the heat on the awareness stuff, on the video view ads, on the traffic ads, going all the way to the advertorials, on the lead gen. And then for Black Friday, we just went all out on the retargeting. Or on Facebook and on Google, it's mostly, I know that Facebook was mainly almost all retargeting at that point.
Mhm.
And I was like, we kept going until they ran out of inventory, quite frankly. That was just why we had to pull back. But it was just such a great like example of just how everything just worked together. And we also had programmatic ads running on Yahoo and those other platforms as well. But we noticed early on the power of this when we meet as a team as media buyers. And I remember the Google person said, like, did you guys do something? Because the Google sales just took a deep dive last week. And I said, oh, well, the decision was made to really slash the Facebook budget because it didn't look like it was doing anything. But clearly it was. So we turned it back on again. And sure enough, the searches went back up, and the sales went back up on Google. And that was that was an aha moment for me and for all of us on the team. We're like, oh, okay, we couldn't measure that, but we figured it out by trial and error. And sometimes that's just how it works because there's so many touch points out there in the world that I don't think there is a program or an AI that can really effectively capture everything that influences us, right? So sometimes you just have to do it with trial and error. And that was very clear what happened. We turned it off even though it looked like it was not getting any results. I have one more example, easy example for that too, is only Facebook ads. It was for a photography studio. And again, we were like, the purchase campaigns didn't look like they were doing well. And then I would adjust the budget down. They're like, oh, our bookings went down. And we found out that the number of people who filled out their contact form on their website, which I wasn't even using in any ad though, that number would determine how many bookings they would get. And when I turned down the ads, the number of people reaching out to them on their contact form went down as well. So
Wow.
we just turned it back up again and just lived with like, okay, we're not really measuring too much here, but it's working. So.
And exactly. And if and I think we have to overcome that a lot because it's like, hang on, if those end numbers, those bottom line revenue, net profit, clicks, whatever the metric is that you're measuring, you have to, especially in this fragmented world of media advertising, you have to go back to those numbers. So I'll always go into the client conversation. It's like, right, guys, what's the outcome? What are we achieving? Right. It's $1 million in sales. How are we tracking towards that? What are the contribution of channels? Because if you keep your eyes on that really core outcome that needs to be achieved, then you can start to, and your examples are brilliant, you can start to piece together what works and what doesn't. We've turned this off. Something's happening here. How do we now turn it back on to drive the outcome? So I think that's brilliant. And the other part which we really have been focusing on a lot is, I don't think we can underestimate this build up that you described in your first example of the build up to Black Friday. We've got over in Australia here, we've got other sales in and around that time. I know you guys do as well. And then of course, in the lead into Christmas. So the really brands, I think, have to get planning further in advance with their full funnel marketing approach. That's got to be in market August, September, October to build that consideration audience up so that they can do the magic that you just described, which is that beautiful retargeting strategy right in and around Black Friday and right in the lead up to Christmas.
Yes.
Because in Australia, we have Melbourne Cup, right? And Melbourne Cup's the first Tuesday of November. I'm not sure it's the horse racing. Huge event in Australia. And my comment always is the minute Melbourne Cup's over, we are on a downhill run to Christmas, Black Friday, right. Cyber Monday, and then Christmas. But the brands that don't get prepared in advance and are not out in market building that awareness and consideration funnel prior to that don't have that pool that you've just described of retargeting audience to then bring and convert into actual tangible sales. So I think that's a great example. Yeah. Now, just another question for you. How do you create and refine sort of that high performing funnel to drive consistent results? So how do you, when you're going through the creation and the refinement process, can you just talk us through your approach to doing that? Because I think it would be great for marketers listening today to just get some different perspectives on how that can be managed.
Yeah. I'm always looking for breaking points. So, and I'm looking for small break. I'm a big fan of micro moves, micro milestones, micro anything. I'm 5'1", so I'm a fan of micro everything. So, I'm always looking for these micro breaking points in there because that's fixable, right? You can probably increase something by 1 or 2%. And then if you can do that all the way through the funnel in different areas cumulatively, right, it's going to result in a bigger win for you. So I just want to go through like, what's a little thing, what's something that's breaking over here? Okay, how can let's focus on fixing that little part of it across the full funnel. And the second thing that I actually started doing a lot more of in the last couple of months is being really disciplined with a marketing testing log. Like I created a very simple spreadsheet that just has the name of it was almost, I went back to like my grade 7 science roots, how did you design an experiment, right?
Yeah,
So
like the
if you just
hypothesis and all that.
exactly, yeah, it's got the objective, it's got the hypothesis, it's got, how long do I plan on running it?
Hmm.
What happened afterwards? What are our next steps? And, at first I was like, oh my gosh, I don't know what to put in there. I'm like, wait a minute, this is not a science project. This is just for me. Right? So it doesn't matter what I put in there. I'm
Don't
I'm good,
overcomplicate
right?
it.
Yeah. If a client needs to see it, I could probably get AI to clean it up or something. But it
Yeah.
it it really has been great with that discipline, so that you really think, oh, okay, like why are we changing the color of this button here?
Yeah.
And then also making sure that nothing falls through the cracks. Because if you're saying, okay, we're going to wait for, 300 opt-ins and, 6 days, then great. You can see it clearly on the testing sheet. You can see if there was a wide enough discrepancy to end the test early or whatever's
Hmm.
happening. And then you can also go back and see all the historical stuff too, which, again, you didn't really have that when we were just like, no matter how big or small the campaign is, sometimes you're just doing stuff and you're moving so fast, you don't document anything, right?
And
And then,
that's the
and that,
key, isn't it? Is to stop and make those that
yep.
documentation,
And it
because
becomes a
that's where
big
you,
task later. Yeah.
yeah,
Because you don't do it till the end of the month. And then you're like,
I've
can't
been
remember what you
guilty. Hands up,
did.
hands up.
Right. Right. Come on. We all have done that.
Oh,
Let's
hands
be honest
up.
about this. We've all done that. So yeah, having that there. And then I'm also finding the juniors find it really helpful because they now have insight into what I'm thinking. And like, oh, that's
100%.
why she decided to do that. I don't put everything in there in minutiae, right? But it's just, I might say, oh, like we tested this next batch of, creatives with these AI avatars, for example, right? Using
Hmm.
the winning message. That's enough, right? You can link out to the Dropbox or Google Drive folder or something with that. But that is, to me, that's been a real game changer. Just going through that discipline,
Hmm.
which we all need to do that more of.
Absolutely. I think it's a great point because it's not sexy, right? And we love,
Yeah.
as marketers, we love the sexy stuff. But really,
Hmm.
a lot of the magic is in the mundane task or the consistent tracking or the 1% improvements that actually make the significant difference that get the commercial impact for the businesses in which we're working in. So I think
Yeah.
that's brilliant advice. Now, a question that comes up with a lot of marketers is around in platform, how are you leveraging the conversion targets? So, what are you, when you're in the platform, when you're buying awareness campaigns or you're buying lead generation campaigns, what are you actually telling the platform you want to do? So
Mm-hmm.
when we're buying awareness campaigns, we're focused on, right, we're going to buy for CPM, we're going to buy for reach, we're going to maximize the eyeballs. And then when we're at
Hmm.
consideration, we're buying for traffic, intention for leads and so on. But I'd love to get your perspective on this when you're looking at different outcomes in the platform. What are you buying for? What are you telling the algorithm that you want? And what are the things that you find work particularly well in that space?
Wow, that's a good question. I think, well, I think for an awareness campaign, again, you also want to lead into what it's designed for. So I guess because what I found is the way that these platforms work and with their AI now, which is, they don't even know how their AI is evolving at some point. Um, but what it does is it does really well what it was instructed to do. So if you run, say, a brand awareness campaign on Meta, let's just use that as an example. Read the objective. It's to get in front of people who will likely remember this 2 days from now. So
Mhm.
I will actually lean into that as that's what I'm buying. And then the CMO is going to have to figure out, okay, well, how does that fit, right, into the whole
Mhm.
customer journey here? So that then we can determine how much we actually want to allocate to it. The second thing I'm thinking of too is how do I leverage it? So I like to do video view ads, a lot of those, because you can make custom audiences of people who watch that very specific video, even if you wanted to, right? And so now I know, okay, that's because we're leveraging it in the retargeting or other places, in the funnel. So
And
so
for our
that way I know,
listeners,
okay.
sorry to
Mhm.
interrupt, Liana, for our listeners, what could you give us some examples of some of those custom audiences that brands might use in
Sure.
that stage?
Yeah. So you can make, well, let's just again use Meta. Like you can make an audience of people who watched a specific video 25%, 15 seconds, 90%, etc. You could make custom audiences of people who've engaged with your page, even a specific post, engage with Instagram. You can also make custom audiences of people who have visited very specific pages. So if you're smart, I think what you would do is you would have keywords on each one of your blog articles, etc., that match the persona that you're trying to advertise to, then you can create a rule to create a visitor audience of that in Facebook, again, for retargeting purposes. So just there's this whole, and you can obviously upload, your email list, et cetera, as well to create an audience too. So I like to keep that in mind when I'm running these the top of funnel, like awareness, video view, engagement type ads, and know specifically what that's for. I'd want to say, like, one other thing I use it for, and I don't use it for as much, is for testing. Actually, I'll use it I'm buying data. In that case, I'm just running an engagement campaign or something like that because I just want to run it for a little bit, see what the click-through rates are. That gives me an idea if I'm going in the right direction. I'm now doing that more with lead gen ads. But when you get to like lead gen and purchase campaigns and complete registrations and stuff, I'm buying that objective. I really like I'm telling Facebook, yes, that's what I want. And the way that the algorithm works and the way that Google's algorithm is starting to go even more this way too is the creatives, the images, the videos, and the text that you use. That's how we can send signals to the AI in terms of what we want. So we do know we're going after that broader objective, right? Let's just say purchases. But in the campaign, based on the words that I use, based on the images, I can actually tell it if I'm looking for people who are very impatient or like they're very, they're frustrated with their life or they're, or they're artistic or, whatever, or their parents or their grandparents or something like that, right? I can just, I can then send those micro signals to the AI through the creative. Like, and that's really how you can control getting the results that you want from the platforms.
Yeah, that's brilliant because that really, I think, forces marketers to really think about those personas for the creative strategy, what conversation they're having with what audience, because now knowing that the AI is going to pick up on that and those micro signals are going to come through, that really just elevates the bar, right, to get each of those components in the full funnel marketing strategy absolutely nailed. Liana, thank you so much. This feels like an ultimate playbook for marketers to achieve full funnel marketing. So thank you so much for joining us. I think what I really wanted to do today was help marketers to stop guessing when it comes to this full funnel approach and really start to get a, consideration, lead generation and sales machine in place that is going to deliver them real results. Because I think at the end of the day, they all just want to achieve more, do less, achieve more, and be more effective. So I just want to say a massive thank you for joining. It's been an absolute pleasure having you here, and we will keep you posted on the upcoming results and progress of our listeners.
It's wonderful. It was a pleasure and honor to be here.
That's a wrap on episode 5 of The Black Box of Media. If today's conversation with Liana Ling has made you rethink your approach to full funnel marketing and lead generation, then now is the time to put these insights into action. Stop guessing, start structuring, and build a marketing machine that delivers real results. Here's what to do next. Share this episode with your team because when everyone is aligned on the strategy, that is when the real magic happens. Hit subscribe so you don't miss the next episode. We've got more high impact strategies coming your way. And leave a review. Your feedback helps us to bring you more expert insights and keeps the Black Box of Media growing. At the Black Box of Media, we're all about lifting the lid on hidden strategies behind high performance media advertising. Because when you know what's inside the black box, you gain the power to optimize, scale, and win. So until next time, test, learn, optimize, and repeat. Let's keep unlocking the Black Box of Media together. See you in the next episode.